Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hello everyone. Hi everyone. What's going on? Happy Thursday. What's happening?
Not much. What's going on?
Oh man, just having to answer 8,000 freaking messages about the name change that isn't happening. Like what? Kevin. Kevin. I love Kevin. Kevin. Like what? I know I addressed this yesterday, but that didn't do anything. Like, because I still got 8,000 messages again, where even off of saying, like, listen, I'm sorry, you're not going to like hearing this, but I don't believe that that's happening anytime soon, if it happens at all. Sorry to be the messenger of that, but I know people in the ownership group too. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. And it was like disbelief. Like they're just, but I like this name or I like that name. And I'm like, oh God.
You would have thought that I was like dancing on the grave of the brand when I said all people care about is winning yesterday, because we had more comments on this page than I had seen in a long time. So yeah, and I don't get it. I don't get it at this point. It's been done for almost 3 years. I'm in get over it stage at this point. I thought I was supposed to be the snowflake generation with the millennials, but I've got nothing on people that can't let go of an old football team's name.
The like this group has talked about what their priorities are and they've stood by what they are. So I can only take them at face value. They wanted to improve the stadium. They wanted to improve the practice facility. They wanted to really kind of roll out the red carpet to the fans again and say, we really want you back. It helps when you go 12-5 and win a couple of playoff games too. That really helps when that happens. But that's where their priorities were. The next priority is the stadium. They want to get the stadium fixed. They want to get the land secured with RFK site so they can at least have the possibility of getting that done. And that's obviously the direction it's going, but you don't know with the politicians and all the red tape that you have to go through. Even that it's at this stage, you don't know, but that's what they're going to be working on this year. And it's just not, they've ever said whenever I've heard them talk about it at all is one, let's just get this over with. It's not going to be Redskins again. Like, I don't even care. If you could convince them to have this conversation, it's not going to be Redskins again. So once we get past that part and we can all agree that that's the case, except for the 5% that doesn't want to hear it, like it's just not going to happen again. Like, well, what would they change it to? And when do you think they would do that? And why do you think it's a priority right now when the highest selling jersey in the NFL is number 5 with Commanders written on the front of it? Like, I hate to break it to you, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news to the people who just refuse to see this as the solution. But it is what it is right now. And it, like, in my opinion, it's not changing anytime soon. So I don't know what to tell you. Like it just is what it is. But I know people just don't want to believe it, but it is what it is.
I was just really hoping we'd be saving this for like March, not literally the week they got eliminated. That was my hope, but
I didn't see that. I didn't have that on the bingo card coming up here. I'm ready to go through the free agents and the team roster and what they're doing next and all the football stuff. I'm surprised. Like, we're triggered into these offseason items that, like, like this is old school. We're triggered into talking about all the stuff, like we can't just like talk about the football.
No, I mean, as I said too, be patient, because don't you want them to have a fresh start if they start off in RFK? So that's going to take a little bit. There's no rush to this thing either at this point,
No.
as far as I'm concerned. Like, you want to do this the right way? Well, the last regime didn't do this the right way either. So don't force them into something that they don't want to do anyways, that they're not ready to address, right? So
They
there's
also
just so
just
many.
hired a team president. They just hired this person. That person's not going to walk in the door and go name change. Like,
Right, exactly.
it's not going to happen. So I don't know. Again, I don't know where Kevin heard that, and I'm not suggesting he doesn't have sources. I know he does, but it's just not even remotely close to the information I've had about it. Could the uniforms get tweaked or look different or look like the old look in the next year or two? Yes, I've actually heard that. But, I don't know how fast that's going to happen. And the stadium's clearly the priority. But the name change, I kind of put that one to bed that that's not happening at all, or at least not for a while.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. I saw someone tweet us a legitimate, thing about them buying the team and then there being a like grace period to be able to change the branding if you buy the team. Like, there's some kind of rule in place. I don't think it's ever happened, though, that a team was sold within 2 years of the entire branding being changed. Not just uniforms, but the actual team name. I'm going to guess that's literally never happened in the NFL's history. I'm pretty sure it hasn't. And it's a different precedent. They can't just be like, oh, we got the team. Now we're going to change everything. And as you said, it is low on the priority list. It takes time. It takes money. It takes meetings. It takes all this stuff that they're not willing to do right now. And I don't blame them. Like, they are trying to get the stadium in place. I would ask people this. Would you rather have them pour resources into a new name and a new brand, or try to get them to RFK? Because I'd rather have them put everything they have into getting this team back in the city. I don't think it's a priority for a good reason at this point.
Yeah. And, this is one of those testing moments when you're on the air where you have to make a decision. Do I just want to tell people what they want to hear, or do I just tell them the truth? And I've always just kind of, been on the side of I'm not going to be a hot take artist, and I'm just going to tell you the truth. This is just where it is, in my opinion. I just taped an interview with John Keim that you'll hear tomorrow. And we talk about it. So I'll just leave it at that, and you'll get to hear what he gets to hear about it too. And listen, you trust whoever source you want. We're there every day. This is not something that comes up at all, period. And trust me, you hear about everything. It's just not something that comes up. So I was actually surprised this week that this turned into a topic. And if he ends up being right and there is a movement to do it and they've been doing it quietly, I'll go, amazing. You found out something that I didn't know. That's hard to do, like how close I am to it all the time. But I don't think that that's happening. It may change, but it's not going to be soon. And it's going to be a while. And it's not what the discussion points are right now. So anyway, that's it. Sorry if that bothers you, and I'm not going to go hot take and make crap up. I mean, that's not how I roll. So anyway,
it also feeds into what I thought about this whole time was the people that want the name Redskins back. There is no satisfying them in any way, shape, or form. Like,
correct, they're not getting that. That's right. Not happening.
Correct. Right. Well, but like this even went to the team going, we're going to sell stuff where the logo is back on, the shirts and stuff like that. It's never enough. And this is always the slippery slope when you're dealing with people that want to have extremes of, I want this back specifically. It's not going to happen. I've said this too, though. Like, no one's stopping you from going on eBay and buying old Redskins jerseys or Redskins stuff. Have at it. Like, go for it. But, like, people are moving on here, man. We've got a franchise quarterback that's been wearing that jersey all year. Looks iconic in it, to be frank. And they just do not care to change all of that while there's all of these other major issues going on with the franchise. I am fine with them not prioritizing it. And I'm not telling anyone how to feel here, but once again, would you rather have them splitting their resources, doing it all over again, and trying to get RFK and trying to get all that stuff done? I wouldn't. I want it to be on the important things, not the interesting things, the important things.
Yes, I 100% agree with all of that. All right, so let's get back into the football here a little bit. I did read a piece from Joel Corey, did an agent's take thing where he did all the steals from around the NFL this year. His obvious one was Saquon was a complete steal. No kidding. Thanks Giants for ruining the NFC this year by allowing this guy to end up there. He brought up a couple of others where he called these winning moves. Russ, like, I say what you want about the Pittsburgh thing. He was paid like nothing to go there. So that was like a total deal for them. Zach Bond is the deal of the year. He turned out to be a tremendous linebacker for them. They got him for nothing because he was like a special teamer in New Orleans and they gave him a bigger role and he thrived in it. I do think it helps the people that he's playing with up front, that is very helpful for him. But no matter what, he was very, very good for them. Underrated. Signing of the year, probably. Jerry Jeudy, I thought was interesting. That came up because he said, it didn't work out in Denver, but it did in Cleveland. I know people don't want to see it because of what happened with Deshaun and their offense went sideways, but he turned out to be really good. The people he brought up that did not were Dak's, extension. We saw Jerry cry during talking about it the other day. I was advocating for a year, just let it play out. See how it goes, make a decision then. You're already kind of resetting the roster anyway. The real star players where the money is on your defense right now, and CeeDee Lamb, but but that's really it. Like, Zach Martin's going to be gone. None of your offensive linemen are making big money. CD's the only one who is on offense. The money needs to be allocated to Parsons and Diggs and all those guys on defense. Like, you're not like kind of in a place to pay him like this, but whatever. They got pressured into doing it. It turned out to be a very bad deal. Now he's hurt. Now he comes back. We don't know what the situation is. Their coaching situation is weird. So that whole thing's weird. And then Kirk obviously didn't work out. And if they were going to draft Michael Penix, I don't know why they signed Kirk at all. Like, that didn't make any sense. So those were the steals, non-steals that Joel Corey did. So I wanted to turn that into, what did we do this year? Luvu was a steal. Like, absolute steal. He's making real money, like $12 million a year, but that's not even top 10 in salaries for linebackers. And he's top 10 linebacker this year. He was outrageous. And I love that as the season progressed, he became the player a lot of other teams hated. They didn't want to play against him. Him leaping over the tush push thing over and over goes down in history as one of my favorite things that any player has done here, because it wasn't going to do anything but just infuriate everybody, which I really appreciated.
No, I think we had made this comparison before. Frankie Luvu is the hockey player that you hate. The Brad Marchand, the Tom Wilson, that type of player that you just cannot stand, but you love it when he's on your team. And Luvu was also just a joy to watch, when he wasn't doing some of those things too. He also became a vocal leader of this team too. And we've talked about this, how, essentially some of these guys came in year one and became leaders. He was one of those guys. So yes, I loved the Luvu signing. And I loved how he grew throughout the season too.
We didn't talk about that thing the other day where the referees actually said they would award a touchdown to Philadelphia if Luvu or whoever else wouldn't stop, quote unquote, doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then I got like frustrated on the air and I'm like, just hike the ball, man. Like, I've had enough of this, because they were hard counting the whole way. Like, it became a game on both sides for a while there. And then people were like, every time they got the penalty, they were resetting the clock. So they're running the clock down on them. And the whole thing kind of made a farce of the situation. The Commanders, Bobby Wagner and Luvu, came out afterwards and said, they're lining up illegally constantly like this. And we were trying to get that across to them. It got called actually for a false start the week before in the playoff game, but that was a false start. Their contention is that this is an alignment, is an illegal alignment that they're using. They were trying to get that across. The referees clearly either didn't hear it or agree with that. And then Luvu was just trying to jump the snap and do something, and he mistimed it. So, like, I don't think that they were going out of their way to make a farce of the situation. I think they were just trying to take a shot at something, and it just unraveled into one of the weirdest situations I've ever heard of. And then I'm trying to figure out, let's just say they did that and went through with it. Who gets credit for the touchdown?
So for me, that's actually what I wanted. I was like, let them award it, because you're taking away some players' bonus at that point, right? Like, right. They all have touchdown bonuses, and then they have postseason touchdown bonuses. And I'm like, screw it. Give them the touchdown. I want to see what the stat line goes down on that one. And
the daily fantasy bettors are like, what's that?
That's right. Yeah, exactly right. The other thing that I would say here too, is something's got to be done with Hurts doing like the head nod real quick on those fake snaps. Like, okay, I get it if you're trying to draw a team off sides, but on that play specifically, how do you blame players for watching the quarterback throw his head down like that? If we're talking about a false start as a sudden motion that the play is about to start, well, is that not a false start either? So I'm actually glad that it went down the way it did, because it put it on the national stage of, I get it. If you want to stop the tush push and you do it, fine. But there are these little things that are a difference maker on that play that should be addressed. And yes, I like the way that it played out. Good for Luvu for he went full send, as we like to say, full send on that play.
Well, I mean, it's been an inevitable play, right, for a couple of years now. And I do like that other teams are going, all right, fine. If you're going to do something like this, we're going to counter it. And you're not going to like the way we counter it.
That's right.
And I was on the air with London going, when they said we're going to award a touchdown, I go, what do you want them to do? They're trying to stop it. Their goal is to try to stop it. They're going to do everything within their means to stop it. He wasn't grabbing the football from the center. He was jumping over the top, trying to time it. Like, what do you want them to do? Like, they're supposed to stop the play, and you're telling them, well, if you don't let the inevitable play occur, then we're going to just award them a touchdown. I thought it was kind of crazy. There was a segment that Kyle Brandt did that I retweeted that I thought was amazing, because apparently this has happened before, where a touchdown was awarded because of a play that got out of hand, and it was from some college game like years and years ago, and there's video of it, and it's somebody ran off the bench and tackled some guy who was streaking down the sideline and then ran back on the bench, and it's hilarious to watch. But the referees awarded a touchdown in that moment, probably to that player, saying it would have gone in anyway. It's kind of like in hockey when you do something egregious and they give you a penalty shot because
Right.
But you still have to score on the penalty shot. Like, they don't just award you the goal. Like, that's what they did in this one play. And it's really funny segment because you see an actual awarding of a touchdown by a referee. And I guess that could have happened here. And I think the referees thought better of it, because now you're just a headline. Like you can't do that. And what did Washington really do here other than try to stop a play on their goal line? What do you want them to do?
Well, also, the internet is undefeated. And as you know, the Chiefs with the refs conspiracy theory has been running wild for more than a year now. And like, the second that he said that he could award
I have things to say about that, by the way, but go on. Yeah.
The second that was said out loud, you should have seen Twitter. Like, are the Chiefs watching this game? Because they just perked up real quick that the refs can just award touchdowns at any point in the game. So, like, I mean, that's where, like, this sport is the best on social media. But, yeah, I'm with you. Like, they didn't want to have to do that. But I also say the Commanders weren't doing anything, like, outlandish on that play either. They were just trying to stop it. It's not like Luvu was, like, trying to slap Hurts on the helmet or something or whatever. He was trying to time up the play like Troy Polamalu used to back in the day. Like, that wasn't a new play either. It wasn't
like
original.
Sheldon Day didn't back up and sit on the football.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What do you mean? Like, he tried to time the play and jumped over the huddle or the line, and like, yeah, he mistimed it and got a penalty. And like, what do you mean? Like, if you keep doing this, keep doing what? Like, they weren't like spinning on the football. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, John Allen was not laying down where the ball was supposed to be.
Yes,
like it was not some crazy thing.
Right, it wasn't a human protest line in front of the bulldozers. Like, what are you talking about?
That's right, exactly right.
Yeah. Like, I think they were lining up trying to stop the play by any means necessary, which is within their rights, right, guys? Aren't we supposed to try to stop them from scoring a touchdown here, even though we know? Which is the point. I just yelled on air. I go, just snap it, Jalen. I was like so frustrated with it because it's like, we know you're going to score. Just do it already. Like, enough with this. Let's get this over with, because this is now spiraling out of control. This turned into the playground fight. This is what this turned into, and the referees turned it into that by making that dumb announcement.
That's right. Exactly right. It was ridiculous.
On the Chiefs, we haven't talked about this either. Let me talk about this for a minute. Just one, yes, I don't think the referees all year, I guess, and this is dated back for a while, they just do seem to get a lot of calls. That Atlanta game, they got away with a couple of them. The playoff game, I agree. The one a couple years ago with the Bengals with the late hit on Joseph Osai that allowed them to win a game late, that was a really, in my opinion, bad call. I do think there's some merit to talking about how Mahomes knows these rules and knows them so well that he uses them to his advantage. Like, he just ducks out of bounds right in time when you can't stop yourself, and then you hit him, and all of a sudden you get 15 yards because by the letter of the law they have to throw that. So I think they do need to talk about this. Like, I do think they need to figure out the difference between player safety and advantages that smart quarterbacks are taking advantage of. Like when Joe Witt and Dan Quinn say we're going to hit you like a running back. If you do act like a running back, you should be allowed to be hit like a running back. If you're back there as the quote unquote defenseless quarterbacks trying to throw the ball, I'll hear out. You can't hit him low. You can't hit him high, all of that stuff. But when he's running out there by the sideline, and sometimes he tight ropes it, sometimes he does it, and he waits to see what you're going to do, and he sees how fast you're going, and then, oops, I stepped out of bounds. Now I get a 15-yard penalty. That's actually on the league to change those rules. He's just taking advantage of it. Like, it's like in basketball with flopping or Euro steps or all these different things that kind of game up the game. At some point the league needs to say, okay, what are we going to put up with? Because they're saying we're favoring a team. He's just taking advantage of our rules. That's all he's doing. And you may not like it, but he knows what the rules are. And so that's how I feel about Mahomes' part of it, which is the league needs to get a handle on this. It's not him doing it. He's just taking advantage of the rules as they stand right now.
There's a lot of layers to this one. I'll start off with just the game itself. Not unlike with Washington and in Philly, the score was so out of hand that the officiating, which was bad, it didn't really make a difference in what the final score was. Like Washington shot themselves in the foot so much in that game that it was over, right? What I hate in this one, though, was there's not enough blame going to the Bills of how they lost that game, too. Like, I get it. Some calls went the Chiefs' way, but McDermott called a crappy game in the second half. I shouldn't say he called it because he's a defensive coach, but he didn't tell them to keep running the ball with Cook. Cook had like 85 yards, and he was gashing them every time he was touching the ball. Nobody wants to talk about how their play calling went to you-know-what in the second half, and how, yes, there's been a couple of calls that went their way, that went the Chiefs' way. But you know what? We see every single one because the Chiefs are in prime time every single week. I think there is something to be said that we see them all the time getting some of these calls when, you and me are watching the Commanders every week. We see calls go both ways all the time. And I just think there's a microscope on them because they are on so much. And to your point about Mahomes taking advantage of the rules, I've talked to you about this like for the last 2 years where he gets popped by defenders because they don't want to deal with that BS. And he does the thing on the sideline where he kind of like jukes you out and then runs for a couple more yards. They're trying to make sure he doesn't get those extra yards. You and I have talked about how defenders tackle Lamar and tackle Patrick Mahomes differently because Lamar's like, I'm going down.
Lamar doesn't do that.
Lamar's like, I'm going down. And defenders know that. Like they pop them, but they don't like go for these hits. Patrick Mahomes trolls a little bit on the sidelines.
Yes.
I think that's why defenders are like, what do you want me to do every single time he tries to juke out and gets a couple more yards? So I think the league does need to address this. The only thing that I hate here is the league said, oh, we're going to put more on this replay assist thing. I don't like that. Like, you're going to put more seeds of doubt in your fans' head because we've seen this before where the replay assisting happens and they don't even say anything about it. And they're like just changing plays all of a sudden. Like that makes the siren go off more for me. And you need to tell me specifically, or when you do this replay assisting, you need to flash something real quick that says, we don't think it's this play, XYZ real fast, just to address the crowd and address what's going on TV. Because you're telling me that all of a sudden you're going to make these like spot checks on replay when you can't even get replay right correctly. So you're saying that you're going to be able to do this faster. I'm just saying you better have a better system in place because you're just going to get people thinking you're cheating more at this point.
Listen, like I've said this about Lamar for a while. I don't think he gets hit the way other quarterbacks get hit. Some of it's his athleticism and some of it is I don't see the ferocity from some of the defensive players coming at him. Like they go after Allen or they go after Mahomes. But Allen and Mahomes bring it on themselves. Baker's bringing it on himself.
Baker,
Well, they want to run like that. They're saying, go ahead, hit me. I'm going to play like this. Mahomes is different. Mahomes, he plays games with you. He will run to the sideline, and he might go out of bounds, and he might not. He uses your aggression against you. If he sees you coming, he steps out of bounds and tries to draw a penalty. If he sees you slowing up, he gets extra yardage on you because he knows you don't want to get a penalty. They need to tighten this up. Lamar, I don't see him do that. Lamar, when he's running to the sideline, he's like, dude, I'm going out of bounds. Don't hit me. I'm going out of bounds. And they don't. Or he slides, but he doesn't slide with his foot up and trying to kick somebody. Like there is the way he plays appears to be the gentleman's agreement of we all know what the rules are. I'm not going to take advantage of them if you don't hit me that way. And that's what it feels like when I watch him. Mahomes and Allen and Baker don't play this way. They are the anything goes guy. And so that's where I think the league needs to step in a little bit here because they're playing like, well, not really Allen and Baker. They run the ball and they take hits and they don't complain about it.
That's
and then they either get hurt or they don't. Mahomes is the one playing around. And I think the part that's hard with him is we're in discussions about how great he is, like among all-time greats. It's that little junky stuff that he's doing that's a tarnish on it where you go, come on, man. Like, we know how great you are. Why do we have to argue whether you've got good sportsmanship? Like, because that's what it is a little bit. Like, you're putting these guys in the worst position possible because you're just using the rules against them. And that's not like the intent of the rule in the first place. And you know it.
And there's two parts of this too. We haven't even talked about Jaden. Jaden did it all season long, where you knew when Jaden was just running for the sidelines, and he didn't try to juke you out for an extra couple of yards. He was tightrope walking it a couple of times
to get a first down, but to get out of bounds.
Yes. Correct, but he never was trying to do that juke move. He was tightrope walking, but he popped out of bounds. He wasn't trying to do any of that. So Jaden, as a rookie, even kind of knew the unwritten rules of that. The other side of this is like what I love, like I said, about NFL Twitter is people just don't forget things. My favorite thing that's happened over the last couple of weeks is like, look at what Mahomes, the calls he gets. And then there are these highlight videos of Tom Brady getting absolutely destroyed, like over and over and over again, and not bitching about it and not getting flags and playing through literally 2 or 3 different generations of quarterback rules. That's where everyone's starting to rewind now too, of like Brady was getting crushed and still making these passes and was not nearly athletic as Mahomes. And he didn't get any of that stuff because it was a different league when he was in the league too.
Yeah, 100%. All right, last thing on the Chiefs too, where everyone thinks there's some conspiracy for them to win. Just logically, why would the other 31 owners want them to win? So just sit with that for a moment. Like, do you think that Tom Brady, now part owner of the Raiders, wants them to win, or Denver, or the Buffalo ownership is like on board with, you know what, if we game it up to like Kansas City win, we all win? They aren't that way. So sorry, conspiracy theorists, it doesn't hold any water. Like it doesn't make any sense that they would. And to your point, every game they play is high profile. Every game you're in, there will be calls that you're mad about. And anything that goes their way, people think there's a conspiracy involved with it. Honestly, if you watch the NFC Championship game, you would think the Eagles got way too many favorable calls. Like, just being honest, I don't think it's why Washington lost. I do think it's why the margin was what it was. Like, I don't think the margin would have been that had the referees not made some of the calls that they made. But I still don't think it had anything to do with Washington losing. I would have preferred a better score going into the offseason. Had they lost 41-23, 38-23, I'd probably feel a little bit better. And I think that's probably a little more emblematic of what it was if it wasn't for those calls. But, again, the game wasn't rigged towards Philadelphia,
right? Like,
to
your point there too. Do you think they would use a market like Kansas City for a three-peat in this league history, and pair it with both New York teams being god awful, not just bad, god awful, embarrassingly bad? If the league wanted to rig things a certain way, they would have the number one market in the United States that has 2 teams. They'd have at least one of them be good.
They'd have Dallas play the Jets every year in the Super Bowl.
That's right. Like if you really think there's some crazy conspiracy theory, they would have had LA beat the Eagles and go all the way to the Super Bowl for a good story after the LA fires. Like, this is like where the conspiracy thing loses me. Like, they would do it in a way that would be way more obvious if you thought there was an actual conspiracy theory. Not Kansas City. Kansas City is not the team, not the market that they're going to do that for.
No, it's not. Okay. All right. Let me take a quick break. Very much show ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this tomorrow, which is kind of go through the roster for the Commanders, and because there's a lot of changes coming actually again. But why don't we do some high profile ones just to talk about today as we head towards what is the end of the season for them and some decisions that have to be made. And I'm going to start with these two, John Allen and Daron Payne. So let me tell you the contractual situation with both of them, because I think it will illuminate what they can and cannot do with both of them. I don't believe Daron Payne is going anywhere, because Daron Payne's dead money next year on the contract extension he signed is upwards of $28 to $29 million. I also don't think, even if they wanted to trade him, that they would probably get value based on the amount of money that he's making. So I believe Daron will be back. Can they work with him on some kind of restructured thing? Maybe. Probably not. So my gut says that Daron is back, and hopefully he'll have as good, if not a better season next year for them. John's the one that we have to keep an eye on. he is in what would be entering the final year of the extension that he signed. If like as it stands now, his cap hit is in the mid 20 million. If they were to release him, the dead money's around 6. So there's a really significant savings on it. And the dead money's not that big of a deal for his deal. There's an argument you could extend him out, maybe at a lower rate, lower his cap number now, keep him here. Does he want to be traded? I don't know. I mean, only he would know something like that. And that contract is actually very tradable. So I do believe there are 3 options with him, and he's the one to watch. I think Duran's back contractually because I just don't see any movement anywhere for anybody to work with. John, though, I could see any scenario possibly coming back, including him coming back on probably a new deal that extends out another year or 2.
Yeah, with Duran, I'm with you. I don't think there's much they can do about that. I think you just let that play out too. If they were in some kind of crazy cap, situation where they needed that space, I would say try to maneuver Duran somewhere else. Maybe you eat part of the salary if you trade him somewhere else, but they don't have to overly complicate things with the way that their salary cap is. I think John's more interesting. Look, we've seen both of these D tackles now for how many years, and John continues to be the better one. I mean, even this year with John being hurt, he came back and was pretty good in the playoffs. Like, I liked his game when he came back. I think if you can bring him back at a cheaper salary because he is getting up there in age, he did get a major injury this year. Does he want to stick around and, kind of be the leader and take a little bit less and stick around longer? I'm open to that. But if he's not, I think this is one of those ones that you kind of have to do kind of the brutal business-like decision, and you don't bring him back and you get that salary cap back. But at the same time, you make your D-line worse. So I kind of just trust what Adam Peters is going to do here. I hope he comes back on a new deal because I'd like to see him, retire in this jersey. I think he's been a good soldier. Yeah, I think he's been a good soldier this entire time. And, he voiced his frustrations as one probably should have a couple of years ago with this ownership group, with this group, whatever. He seems to like it here again. And I would like to see him, kind of carry the flag the rest of the way. But I kind of trust what Adam Peters is going to do here. I'd like to see him come back on a cheaper deal for a couple more years. He's getting up there in age, so he can't demand what he did before.
I don't know what his market value is. Him coming back and playing, I thought, read competitor, also read understanding of the situation. That like, if you can come back from this injury and you can play hard, it will help us in terms of leverage with this team and everybody else to show what you can do. The question for him will be, and what the team will have for him, what is his market value? And what you're going to end up saying to him is, if we release you, this is what you can expect to make on the open market. Wouldn't you rather just stay here and let's extend you out and get to around that average number? And that's what I think will end up happening here. But I don't know. And I don't know what he wants. But he's one to watch, obviously, here. And I agree, they don't have anybody better than him. And it's not close. So this roster has a ways to go in a number of different spots. His replacement isn't there. Don't tell me it's Johnny Newton. Johnny Newton as a run stopper is not there yet right now. Johnny Newton, to me, could be a very, very good interior pass rusher. Could he be very good against the run? He's going to have to get better at it. John's better at this. So let's see where that goes. Other side of the ball. Wiley is an interesting one. Wiley has 1 year left on the contract that he signed here a couple of years ago. It's not for a ton of money. It's like, I think around the $11 million mark. The dead money on him would be pretty slim to let him go. But they do not have, unless they want to re-sign Cornelius Lucas and think that he's an 18-game player, they don't really have his replacement. What if Brandon Coleman goes to right tackle? What if Brandon Coleman moves inside? I don't know what the plan is there. So he's one to me that is very much up in the air too. But again, they clearly, and this was exacerbated late in the season, they don't have a lot of depth on their offensive line at all. And so I don't think you're just in the business of just letting anybody go. And it's not like he's making $30 million a year. He's not, where you'd go, he's not living up to a salary like that. He is living up to the salary he's making. So he's a 50-50 one to me. And it will largely probably be dependent on, where does Coleman go? Do they think he's better on the right side? Do they think he's better at guard? Do they want to leave him at left tackle? I'm not totally sure about that. And we'll have to see what they decide. And even with that, it is possible that they go, why would we cut Wiley anyway? We have him here. Let's keep him here just in case as our backup. It's not like he's making a ton of money.
That's where I've kind of landed here too. I think the way also it helps the way that this locker room, seems to, really be tight knit. If I'm Peters and Quinn, I'm going to Wiley going, look, we want to keep you around here. You saw how many injuries we had last year. Even if you don't start, we're going to have to rely on you at some time. I'd even go as far to go, look at how many times Cliff brought in the extra tackle. You know what I mean? Like, they had some unique formations where they needed an extra lineman. And I think you just say to him, look, you got a year left on your deal. We're going to keep you around. No matter what happens, though, you're going to get some usage here. And this is how you kind of build that depth, too, though, is by keeping guys like this around for that extra year. I think he sticks around mainly because I don't think there's another solution.
Terry's in the last year of his deal, of the extension he signed. He is making 20 plus million, closer to 30 million a year. That is in line with, top 10 receiver. It is not number one, number two. Are his people going to ask for something like that? I don't know if they're going to get a receptive audience. As great of a season he had, I think after this year, it has become abundantly clear that he needs to play out the vast majority of his career here. I wouldn't want him anywhere else. I doubt he wants to be anywhere else, especially with this quarterback now. So I'm hoping that there is a meeting of the minds to extend him out and lower his cap number and make him happy all at the same time. And I hope that that business can be done. Now, he is making a lot of money, and he's not going to hold out over getting 28 million. It's not like the T. Higgins or Jamar Chase thing where they're so vastly underpaid that they need to be dealt with. Terry's not in that position. So I think we have time. I think they could wait until the summer to probably deal with something like this with him, unless they feel like they need cap room, which I don't think they do. But I do think there's business to be done here with him. And I'm hoping to extend out because clearly he can still play. Clearly he can play at an extremely high level. Even though he's getting near 30, he's got at least a couple more years in him. And I think we all want to see this window play out with him in it. So I'd like to see that work out.
I said this to you right away. Like, I think this is the first deal you try to get done. And I saw one of the kind of aggregate accounts or whatever that said, if you were to get an extension, it would probably be somewhere in the 3-year, 85 million range. Something like that sounds about right. Here's my deal. I'm saying you go full sentimental with the guy. I think you offer him like a 5-year deal worth a good amount of money. I don't know what that would play out, but I think he's the type of guy you kind of go above and beyond and say, we've seen you. You play really well with this guy. Also, Terry's going to be the type of guy that, later on when he's not as fast, not as good, he's going to take a reduced role and he won't say anything bad about it. Like, I guarantee you he's going to be a good soldier the rest of the way. Look at how Santana Moss's career played out here in Washington, right? Like, in 2012, he was the third and fourth option on that offense with RG3. Yes, remember he was playing with RG3 for a little bit there. So I think he falls into that category of you keep him around no matter what. I think you go a little bit above and beyond here, maybe a 4-year, 5-year deal here. I'm with you. I think you lower that cap number. The other thing, too, is with all the cap room that they have, you can give them that bonus this year, get it out of the way, off the books, whatever, and then, get the years out of them that you want to.
Yeah. The other one's running back. I don't know what happened to Brian Robinson at the end of the year. He just wasn't the same player, and he is under contract here. It's not for a ton of money. It is a difference from what he was making. He was a bargain, and that's what happens when you're a mid-round draft pick. He was a bargain the first 3 years. His number is projected to be in the $3 to $3.5 million range, which is not a really large number anyway, but they have to make a decision on him. It would be the last year of his contract. Austin Eckler signed a 2-year deal. He does have 1 year left. I would like to hear from him. I know he came back and played, but that was some serious concussions he suffered. Is he going to continue to play? I haven't heard otherwise, but I think he probably give him a minute. Think about that. Jeremy McNichols, I'm sure if he wants to come back and they want him back, they would have him as the number 3 special teamer, all that stuff. Chris Rodriguez, I don't know where he stands in all of this. He had a couple of nice moments for them, and obviously on a rookie contract isn't making very much money, so he's potentially a solution as a number 2, number 3 running back for them. But I want to see what happens here. Like, I think this one screamed in the middle of the season, run it back with the group that they have. And now we're sitting here today, and I'm not so sure about that. So we'll have to see.
They need a playmaker, period, at that position. And I don't know if you add him to this group or if you cut Robinson or whatever, but it was apparent that Robinson, he had some nice moments in that Detroit game, but he broke down really in the second half. I don't know if it was he was fatigued, whether he wasn't seeing the offense correctly, was he hurt? I don't know, but it didn't get the job done here. And not unlike what we said overall about this offense, they just need a playmaker, whether it's at wide receiver or at running back. I don't know what the market looks like on running backs or who could be there at the end of the first round, or if there are a bunch of running backs available in this year's draft. You need something else in that room, though. It just did not get the job done down the stretch. And Eckler, who had fumble problems before, didn't have fumble problems all year until the last game of the season. Yeah. I think it's fine bringing him back just on a contract year, but they need more from that room, period, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too. All right, we'll be right back. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, I saw this from Adam Schefter today. 7 years ago today, the Alex Smith trade that brought him to Washington, and it happened, obviously, I remember, to the disdain of the NFL. This was before the Super Bowl. They were really angry that a prominent trade like this, which isn't even allowed to be executed until March, was announced. And I'll never forget, that was Kendall Fuller was a trade. Prominent people in the market saying we got fleeced over that. And I'm like, you wouldn't trade a slot corner for a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback? Like, you wouldn't do that? And okay. Anyway, 7 years ago today, if you can believe that, boy, has a lot happened in 7 years. We've changed the name a couple of times. He got injured, came back. That was the scariest comeback in the history of mankind. And then now we're here at 5. Oh man, what a crazy 7 years we've had.
I will never forget that because we were both at WTM at the time for that trade. It happened. I think I got out of a movie and it happened. And Scott, Jackson, B-Mitch, and Doc had to run through the Mall of America to get to their spot on Radio Row to go live at like 9 p.m. I will never forget the scramble of when that trade happened, how like chaotic it was. And you're right. From that point on, my God, did a lot change. And you're right. Like, people were freaking out over Fuller. He was a slot corner and they traded a draft pick to get a franchise quarterback. Like, yeah. It was fine. But that was the old NFL memo. Don't do this ever again. Any team ever, because we're trying to talk about the Super Bowl here. So, yeah.
Yep. Bill Belichick joked that the Lombardi trophy should be called the Brady trophy now. I don't know that he's wrong. Not entirely against this. I know he was kidding, but and it's really tongue-in-cheek coming from him, of all people, to say it. And Kraft is going, why don't you call it the Kraft trophy? But I don't actually, now that he said it, I'm kind of like, he might be right about that.
I don't think it should be Lombardi. Like, Lombardi battled cancer and was the first iconic coach of the league. Here's one that I do think should happen. They should rename the MVP trophy after Brady. Brady has 5 of them, the most. Patrick Mahomes has 3, so he's 2 away. Do you even know who the MVP for the Super Bowl trophy, who it's named after?
No.
It's named after Pete Rozelle. So,
okay.
I think you give Brady that one. Pete Rozelle also has a broadcast award named after him as well. So I think we take that one away and we name it the Tom Brady MVP trophy, Super Bowl MVP trophy. I think that's what you do. I think
now you're really up my alley. What should they name the broadcast trophy? Who should they name that one after?
Well, it is Pete Rozelle. So do you think they should take that one away? Are you saying take it away from Pete Rozelle?
Don't you think it should be named after a classic broadcaster of the NFL? Like, I don't know,
John
Al
Madden.
Michaels, Howard Cosell,
John Madden.
John Madden. That's a good one. John Madden. Yeah. No, I think I want to think about that one. Now you're barking up my tree a little bit. All right.
So yeah, there's a couple awards there, but I think we just need to shuffle some things around there.
I read that Greg Olson admits he cannot stand watching these big games and Tom Brady calling them. Not anything against Tom. He just feels like he should be doing them. And I agree to a degree. I don't think this does him any favors admitting these or doing these interviews. I understand your feeling about it. Tom Brady getting that job is not a surprise. Welcome to the real world. He's Tom Brady. Whether, if he's good at it, he'll continue to do it. If he's not, it will change. And then we'll see what happens from there. But I don't know. There's just part of me that goes, keep it to yourself. Like, does anyone really, like outside of the people who know, like us that follow it constantly, how does this fly with other people who are just like, what is he talking about? So I would just keep that to yourself, honestly.
So I have a theory here. Let's go through the number one teams here real quick. You've got Brady as the number one guy on Fox, right? CBS is Romo. ESPN is Aikman. NBC is Collinsworth. Yeah. And then Prime is Kirk Herbstreit. You tell me who the weakest one out of those five are.
Right. So
I think he's angling.
Could he go to Amazon with a play-by-play when Al retires? Yes.
Well, no, I'm not saying about play-by-play. I'm saying
it's just color. Yeah.
Yeah, it's color. I think he's looking at that going, let me drum up some noise here. Does old Amazon, do they want to make a change with Herbstreit? Because he's fine. But as far as NFL stuff goes, he's nothing great. Like, I like Herbstreit a lot. And
he's gotten better. He's gotten better. The first year was rough. I got the sense, and I'm not surprised, he didn't know the league that well.
That's right.
Because why would he? Like, if I got thrown into calling Big Ten games, it would take me a year, like really get to know it, like it takes a while.
So I think this is Olsen drumming up some noise that if someone else wants to make a move, they try to snatch him from Fox or make a trade or whatever. We've seen trades happen with, commentators before. So I think it's him trying to just drum up the market a little bit, not unlike in real football.
Yeah. All right. Last thing real quick. Caps end trip in Ottawa tonight. End of a trip. I smell a loss, actually. What do you think?
Ottawa plays really hard. The Caps have been playing hard as well. I don't know who's in net as of this time recording. If it's Logan Thompson, I really like them to win. Lindgren's actually stepped up pretty well here. Look, the Caps have been, I feel like a broken record here. They've been really low scoring as of late. So I think they're going to continue this. They're back on normal East Coast time. Thank goodness for me. Back at 7:00, but give me Caps win again here on a low-scoring one, like a 3-2, 2-1. They've been getting these low-scoring wins. They know how to win in crunch time. Protus's goal the other night to finish off Calgary was fantastic. I think they get it done here. The other big thing here is Dylan Strome scored the other night. He is an up-and-down scorer. He should keep it going tonight. So I think they get this one. It's going to be low-scoring, and they win again.
Rhythm of the season. I smell a 3-2 loss, something like that.
If they hadn't lost in Vancouver, I'd be with you. But I think they got that out of the way on the road trip already.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Brad Buster Show, ESPN 630, The Sports Capital.